In a world of increasing mental health challenges, psychology and faith can both provide tools for healing and wellness. This is the idea behind Journey on My Mind. Each episode, our panel of pastors and therapists sit down together to share their experiences and insights on the modern world's mental health issues: depression, loneliness, aging, addiction, and so much more. Join us now as we explore what it means to thrive at the complex intersection of spirit and psychology.
Welcome to a red hot Journey on My Mind.
Oh, that's a good lead-in.
There it is. We have a fire alarm going off in the building. If you happen to hear it while we are talking with one another, do not be alarmed. We do have a sprinkler system that will put out the fire. So we're not going to check. We're just going to keep on rolling.
He's actually going.
We're here to literally and figuratively
and Dave is here.
I am here.
Susie's here. And Sam's here.
Hello. Are we actually recording right now?
That's hilarious.
I went and looked at him. Oh, yeah.
We're on, guys. We're on.
And so I do want to call attention to two things on the table. First of all, my phone is not on the table.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is really important.
It's in toy jail.
It's a toy jail. It's on airplane mode.
Kevin's not responsible enough to hold his phone.
And we got new mugs, and I thought it would be fun just to put one out here. If you would like one, you have to come visit us, and then you at Journey, and you can get one for free. But if you've already got one, sorry, they're $12.
Yeah,
an old one.
An old
hard
one,
bargain
right?
over here.
And there's no trade-ins. You get to keep the old one.
Oh,
the
really?
old ones are vintage. They're worth a lot of money.
Yeah, so hold on to those.
Mm-hmm.
I've got one from every iteration
Yep.
going back to, I don't know,
100 years.
Yeah.
2016.
Oh, okay.
So the upgrade
7 or
is
8
$12.
Yes. If you want to upgrade, it's $12.
And I will say, high quality mug.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, high quality. And then there's a new book on our table, and that's a high quality book.
I can talk about it.
Sure.
This is actually a book called Triumphs of Experience by a guy named George Vaillant. And I'll tell you real quickly, this would be a great discussion by itself. I'm going to make it short.
Okay.
So
We're always up for a good discussion.
Harvard did a study called a longitudinal study, which follows people across their lifespan, and it lasted for 79 years.
Wow.
No way.
And they took incoming college freshmen at Harvard, and they matched them with less privileged people,
Okay.
all men, and they follow them from the time they were 18, 19, all the way across the lifespan until the last one died.
No kidding.
Wow.
And they measured everything they could think of. They measured their IQ, their career achievements, their
finances,
relationships, you name it, personality variables.
Cool.
And they're just following them across the lifespan, saying, well, what do we see here?
Without judgment or with commentary?
Well, they were just collecting all this data.
Okay.
And then at the end, they come up with some conclusions. And there's several, but I will tell you the two biggies.
Okay.
And this is going to be in the no duh file, but it also is also really cool.
My no duh file is really thick.
I know, Kevin.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is.
So they said, basically, if you want to wreck your life,
Okay.
then develop a drinking problem and don't take care of your physical health.
Okay.
So that's good.
Check.
That's your number
Check.
one path to wrecking your life.
Check.
Dang it.
But here's a really cool thing. And this is, again, it sounds obvious, but they said what the finding was. And again, they're looking at people for 80 years.
Yeah.
And they said, if you want to, at the end of your life, look back and feel content, happy, satisfied with your life, there's only one thing that really predicts that. And it's not how much money you make. It's not what status you have. It's not what material goods. It's not any of those things.
Okay.
It's, are you in relationships where you loved other people and were loved by other people?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
I mean, it's because
it's almost like we were made for that.
Exactly.
Are you surprised by that?
No,
Is that
but
shocking?
it's cool that because in that cohort of people
Yeah.
were people like John F. Kennedy, William Bradley, the editor of the Washington Post during Watergate.
Oh, wow. So they were all part of that
CEOs and future.
Okay,
right? They're
yeah.
18 years old. They're at
Oh,
Harvard,
that's
and
so cool,
they're
though.
following them across their lifespan. So these are people that, like, many of them, super duper accomplished.
So was it like everything from accomplished to just like kind of
Yeah, they had
average
a
kinda-
matching group. So they had this Harvard incoming, which is not a normal
Yeah, that's
group.
true. Fair enough.
And then they matched them with less we'll say less privileged
I got
people.
you. I understand.
People like us.
Yeah.
You and me.
Normal people.
The people that went
Well-
to Kentucky Christian University.
Those are two different things.
Not
Normal
Harvard.
people and people like us are not the same
That's
thing.
true. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Touche, Dave.
But they matched them,
Touche.
and that's what they found is that it
That's
doesn't
crazy.
really like
That's really
these
funny.
people who,
Yeah.
CEOs and ambassadors and senators and president and all
Yeah.
this stuff didn't matter.
Huh.
It wasn't that those things were negatives. It just was that they didn't predict anything.
Yeah, they weren't.
In terms of so these were like at the end of your life, you're in your 80s, 90s, whatever you are,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Are you happy with your life? You satisfied?" The
ones that were.
the predictor was they were in close relationships with people where they felt loved.
That's
What did they
amazing.
do with the people whose lives were cut short?
That just was part of the deal. Yeah, no, they looked at factors that contributed to that. Often it was that they just didn't take care of their health. They didn't exercise. They're
the ones that drank
They
and-
drank a lot. They had drinking problems. The drinking thing was the big.
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool.
And then there's one guy who's like 140 who's still living, and so the
Like,
study is
they're
not
like,
complete. Yeah,
over with Mr.
Come on, bud.
Like,
All right,
He
Bill,
just
it's time to
started
call
drinking.
today, bud. Yeah.
He's like, I gotta do
He's
something.
like, I gotta
need a
start
drink.
drinking.
I gotta end this.
yeah, we got to widen this thing out.
That's hilarious.
By
That's
the
really
way,
cool.
The oldest living human is no longer living.
Oh, no.
So now there's
this woman in Spain died this week. She's
So-
117 years old.
Wow.
Oh, that's way too long.
That's
Yeah.
dog years.
Yeah,
right
think
there.
about it. Like,
Yeah.
if you're 50,
Yeah, you're
I'm not even halfway
done.
there. I'm not
you still
half
got
done.
67
We're good.
I'm definitely
years.
half done.
Yeah, I'm way beyond. I'm like,
I'm way past half
I'm
done.
feeling like
I'm way
yeah,
past half done.
She was
3/4
pretty
at
spry.
least.
Yeah.
She was like pretty
Yeah.
spry. Yeah.
Did y'all ever see the movie The Green Mile?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
this sounds just like a random.
Good talk, Kev. Good talk.
Thanks.
Good talk.
Hey, did you ever see Star Wars?
different movie. The Green Mile.
You lost me.
The character, Forrest Gump character in that.
No, Tom Hanks.
Oh,
character.
Tom Hanks. That's right. Same guy.
Oh, my gosh.
He gets to live a long time because of he was touched by an angel.
It's a great
Oh,
series, by
wow.
the way, too.
Yeah.
If you've never
Do you guys
watched that.
always have this kind of riffraff?
Usually
at
we
the
talk
beginning?
about the weather, but I've
Or
been.
is it
I
just
have been.
because there's Journey Now people on here?
Yeah,
It's
Ken had
like
a
when
lot of
Laverne and
coffee.
Shirley showed up on Happy Days.
Usually-
It's all weird.
Usually,
And Fawn started drinking Pepsi and milk. So weird.
This is an improvement because Kevin usually just does a weather forecast.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. This
For
is
like-
He
way
does
better.
like to talk about the weather.
What? Pepsi and milk? Edwin, you're a Pepsi and milk fan. I started
It's actually
drinking
milk
it.
and Pepsi. I just want to.
mixed.
Yes.
All right.
Why?
All right.
Well, I think we've all learned
Okay.
valuable lessons.
I don't know, but you
here
wrecked
today.
both of those drinks. Anyway, I'm sorry, Dave.
This has been another episode of Journey Now.
Yeah. This was a short.
So good.
I gotta go see clients.
Actually, I'm next, so Dave can stay right here because we're meeting right
actually,
after.
we are his clients. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like the old lady. Like, let's get this on. Let's get the show on the road.
They
here.
keep telling me that I'm starting to sound more and more like one of those curmudgeons from the
Muppets.
Muppets, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
yeah.
sits up in the balcony.
Yeah.
Do you know what their names are? Statler and Waldorf.
Whoa!
That's amazing that you
Which
know
am
that.
I?
Statler.
Statler.
Yeah, Statler.
I believe the phrase that was thrown at you the other day was "You're becoming more and more Muppet-like."
Yeah, there's a broad spectrum of Muppet.
Yeah.
Like you're going deep into the Statler
Yes.
identity.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yep, that's why they decided to get cameras so people could see the descent
Yeah.
That's true.
rather than the ascent. It's the descent.
30 years
into-
from now, their doctors
Yeah.
will appreciate this.
There'll be a book. written
Dogs will.
No
Yeah.
doctors.
Oh,
will.
I thought-
it'll be a book.
It'll be another study about like
Dogs will
what's the
eventually
decline
appreciate
of
this.
Katie.
All right, moving right along.
Oh
Okay.
yes, I'm sorry, Dave. I know you want to talk about something much more important than Muppets, and
Why would that be?
I don't know
Who knows?
because you took time out of your day to come over here and talk to us about what a psychologically healthy church
Hey.
would look like,
That's a good
and we
lead-in.
really
Wow.
appreciate that you
Well-
took time out of your day and
This
read.
is not it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Susie.
Based on this podcast.
Thanks for joining us. If you want to know what unpsychologically healthy is, join us on a Sunday.
Take a look.
Yeah.
No, and I actually want this to be a conversation because I don't think any of us have this fully formed idea. I do not.
Yeah.
It's been something intriguing to me,
Yes.
and I've been thinking about I haven't written a Christian book since the 90s, and I was like, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
You have a written or read one?
Written one.
Either.
Since like mid 90s.
So the one
Okay.
that you just wrote on,
The evangelical. I wouldn't say that's a Christian
not a
book.
Christian
It's a little
A lot of Christians would
It's a
say
little-
it's not Christian.
Christian
poke at.
adjacent.
sociological study.
right. It's
Yeah.
more psychology.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Good pull.
But if I did, the thing that's most intriguing to me these days, and it's largely because of the conversations we're having here, is what makes for a psychologically healthy church. Because it feels like a psychologically healthy church is an important thing in our culture.
Yeah.
It feels that way.
Yeah. So I do not have fully baked ideas here, but I
Do you have any half-baked?
I do. I have a lot of half baked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you read Pete
I'm all about
Scazzero's book,
half-
The
I have.
Emotionally Healthy Church?
I have, yeah, and I think it's okay. I think it's good. There's some good stuff there. I do think there's room to kind of broaden out that idea.
Okay, yeah,
So-
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. So could I lead with just
Please do.
talk-
Yes.
So
Please do.
To me, not to get like all like hair splitting, but words matter and
Oh, yeah.
concepts matter, and that helps a lot.
Yeah.
So I was trying to break down like what's the difference between emotionally healthy, psychologically healthy, spiritually healthy,
There you go.
Really
Right?
good to
and they're overlapping. So because I think sometimes we start talking about spiritually healthy and we're really talking purely about emotionally healthy, and we talk about so like what's the difference between these things? So I'm going to take a stab at it first. And then I'll talk about some other things that might be part of psychologically healthy.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, first, so you referenced the book, The Emotionally Healthy Church. That's out there. There's it's kind of its own little cottage industry
Yeah.
where there's like the emotionally healthy leader, there's
Woman.
inventories, emotionally healthy woman, all those things. Yeah,
I haven't read that one.
Yeah.
Me neither.
you haven't read The Emotionally Healthy Woman?
I have not. I probably should.
Yeah, maybe so.
Pretty good.
So I would define emotionally healthy or emotional health as having what we tend to term emotional intelligence, like someone who is aware of their emotions, someone who expresses their emotions in an honest way, someone who has the ability to regulate and manage their emotions, and then also has a balance of emotion where they're able to have an emotional life but not be so thrown off
Right.
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
the knocks, the slings and arrows of life. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Then I would broaden out psychologically healthy to be bigger than that. And
Yes.
so in psychology, there's at least 3 parts of psychology, and I'm going to say there's 4.
Okay.
But there's the cognitive, which is the thinking part.
Yep. My favorite.
That's your favorite, Kevin.
Yep.
And then there's the emotional part, which we just talked about.
That's my least favorite.
His least favorite.
That's my favorite.
This is like the director's cut
I don't like any
DVD
of
where Kevin has to comment
yeah,
on
on every.
everything that's happening.
Just so you know.
And then there's behavioral. So again, traditionally we think of look at him monitoring over there. He's like holding his tongue. So there's cognitive, emotional, and physical, behavioral.
Behavioral, yeah.
Got it?
Yep.
Yep.
Got it.
I would also include relational. Yeah. So I would say psychology is human thought, human emotion, human behavior, and human relationships.
That's
Awesome.
That's fascinating.
I like it.
That is
Yeah,
what they
that's
call
cool.
robust.
Yeah.
It is
Dr. Verhaagen.
robust.
That's
Thank you.
full.
So I would say that that's a broader idea that emotional health is a component
Yeah.
part of.
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
so.
And then I would say spiritual health includes things like healthy beliefs and faith, healthy relationship with God, like a secure attachment to God. We talked about that in our survey, a connection to a faith community, and a general sense of purpose that's aligned with faith. That life feels aligned with, it's informed by and aligned with faith.
Yeah.
I would say that would be a spiritually healthy.
Yep.
Are we good?
I
Yes.
agree.
Yeah. Kevin's
Kev?
he's either filtering another comment or he's pondering.
I would say spiritually healthy, and I'm trying to remember exactly what you used, but encompasses some kind of relational health. I don't know how to put that in there. Did you put it in
Well,
there?
connection with the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, the community
Okay.
connection.
I put it
yeah.
relationship with God, relationship with community.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool, and to me that makes a difference because I think a lot of times, and I find myself doing it too. We're like, "What's a spiritually healthy church?" And we're really only talking about emotional stuff,
Right.
or we're
Right.
or
good.
We slice it.
yeah, or we just the concepts get a little fuzzy. So here's where I'm taking it, and then I want to say, what does this look like,
Yeah.
practically speaking? So if we take that idea of psychologically healthy involves the cognitive or the thinking part, the emotional part or the feeling part, the behavioral or the action part, and the relationship, those things, then a psychologically healthy church would have all of those things at a place of health where people are thinking well about things and processing information well as to the best of their ability, that they're emotionally intelligent, they're acknowledging emotions, they're understanding emotions, they're regulating emotions, their behavior is aligned, that their actions and their behavior lines up, and then a relational piece where their healthy relationships extend to God, community, others,
Individuals,
self,
Families.
yeah, all that.
Yep.
Okay, so it's a fairly broad idea,
It's a very broad idea.
but what I like about this idea, and this has been kind of percolating in my head because of the conversations we've been having at Journey, is it moves us away from just making faith a cognitive thing, which is, I think, been one of the biggest errors of the evangelical church over the past several decades. It's like you check the cognitive box, right? You're like, I believe these
Such and such.
8 things, I'm good.
Yeah, these
It's the
propositions.
enlightenment, right?
Right. It's enlightenment thing. It's like purely rational cognitive.
Yep.
I assent to these things. I'm good.
And that's what matters.
And then your emotional world, your relational world, your all this stuff is sort of like, well, we give lip service to that of saying, well, if your thoughts are right, then your actions are going to be right, and so on. But it's kind of peripheral.
Right.
You know, it's funny. Like, I'm just thinking about growing up that, like, behavioral was a big part of our community.
Right.
Like, it was, you had to align and act this way, these
right
moral
things.
behaviors, or else that was a sign you were. So
Tip the scale.
I feel like growing
to
up,
the
that
fiery
was,
part of
yeah. But that was an important piece too. So I don't know if where
that's
you're going
great.
with it, but anyway,
Great thinking. Yeah. And the other part I would think of is that I think a psychologically healthy church is, and I'm not sure if I'm stuck on this term or not, but
you can be.
thanks. I would call it mental health informed. In other words, there's an openness to mental health issues. Mental health is real. And I'm not even talking about mental illness. I'm just saying general mental health. That is an important part of being a healthy human.
Yes.
Which includes clinical diagnoses as well as things like trauma and
all the things.
like that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Deep grieving kind of stuff, like stuff you go through that you just kind of need somebody to walk through with you.
So take it from there. So as you hear this,
I think
what
you did
percolates?
A great job.
Good night, everybody.
Nailed it.
Or what else?
This is our
Nailed
third,
it.
Here's
our third out. Yeah.
just lob this onto the table, but you brought this up, and I'm not sure. Growing up, churches I've been a part of, preachers I've listened to, one of the predominant methods within a church to get the right behavior or to control the masses is fear.
Totally.
So what is a healthy relationship then with fear? Is there a healthy relationship with fear in the context of, fear the Lord? You know how many times? I mean, growing up, that was thrown at me lots of times.
Yeah.
I am deathly afraid.
Yeah.
I am.
That's why I
so
said yes
afraid.
to Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean,
over and over again.
Literally.
Right. So that
Originally.
phrase as being a part of, what is it? The beginning of wisdom is the fear of God.
Fear of the Lord. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
Yeah.
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 Something like that.
So that falls into a couple of the categories there of health.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a psychologically healthy environment, does fear ever have a role?
Well, I think you got to go back and redefine fear too.
Okay.
Because like Dave said, words matter.
Yeah.
Words matter.
And I don't think fear, as we read it in the text, is what we think of as human fear. Like,
Is afraid.
yeah, we're not afraid necessarily. Like, I'm afraid of the dark, or I'm afraid of there actually being a fire in the building right now. But like,
I'm glad.
yeah, it's more of like fear in the sense of awe and
yeah.
reverence, and like the kind of fear of like when
Respect.
you see an angel and the angel says, "Fear not." Like
Yeah.
you're in awe that there's an angel in front of you. You're not. You might be kind
I'd
of
probably
afraid.
be a little nervous
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
totally. But that comes from this like awe,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Like it could produce that kind of fear.
Sure.
But the
So you're describing the healthy fear.
yes, and so what I'm just saying, when we say the beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord, like I think that's what that means, and out of that, because my follow-up question to your question is then where does obedience fit in?
Sure.
Because I
Right.
1000% agree that behavior modification has been the
A tool.
modality
Right.
of the
Sure.
century.
Morality,
But-
moral
Yeah.
behavior.
But I
correct. Yeah.
also believe the best about those who have gone before us, and think that it began with this desire for faithfulness and obedience. And but that word obedience, we never use that word now because that's weird,
Trust and obey.
Right, but it's all over scripture.
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean? And not just mean for us
Well,
today, but what does it mean?
And what sits behind it? What's the
Right.
motive behind the obedience? And I think if the motive behind the obedience is to not be afraid, to make sure God is not angry at me,
Yeah.
to make sure that you've created an environment that's not healthy. You've created an environment that is reactionary to an angry God.
Well, it's a different kind of fear. It's an afraidness of, not an awe
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Right. So, and if I've talked to people that come to Journey, and they were taught that if they don't give 10%, they don't do X and so, then God's angry with them.
Well, I was taught 10 years ago that obedience precedes understanding,
Precedes it.
precedes it.
You obey, and then you understand why. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I got to
That's a
sit in
pretty
that
common-
one for a second.
Yeah. And I mean, I think in some ways, maybe, but generally speaking, I don't think that that's really a
Like
healthy
there's instances
approach.
where that might be the correct approach. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for example,
Do the right thing.
yeah, like I don't know why I have to do this, but I've been told it's the right thing. So I'm just going to do it and trust God that he's going to help me understand at some point, or, I'm just going to do it because the Bible says to do it or not do it.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to follow that, and then maybe I'll understand why later.
Okay. So the motive behind that is just understanding. I understand that this
Theoretically.
this is what I'm so, but I'm trying to tie together his four things in that because it's got to meet somewhere. In order for it to be psychologically healthy, those things got to meet somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Well, they inform each other, and they
Like an interplay.
right. There's an interplay.
Yeah.
There's got to be. There's an interplay. I mean, that's what we know in psychology is thoughts affect emotions, affect behavior,
And
So,
secular.
Does it always go one way?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. But here's, and I'll tell you, I'm lost in my own thoughts.
So am I at the moment.
But that's why I imagine this conversation being like, we're really wrestling with parsing out some of this and coming to a place that gets more clear. But where I am with what you were saying is, you kind of posed it, is fear
Yeah.
okay, good? And the answer is it depends. It's
Right.
kind of like I have a lot of guys come in and they totally flip and lose control of their anger, and they
Rage.
regret it, and they
Yeah.
their girlfriend breaks up with them, or their parents are upset, or whatever the thing is. And I always start with, this is a rhetorical question, but it's a kind of a trick question. Is anger bad? And the answer is no, because anger is a normal emotion. So
Right.
why are we talking about this? Well,
Yeah.
it's because we want to manage and control anger. We want to be able to manage the anger. So fear is very, like, if you are walking in your neighborhood and a pit bull comes through the fence and is charging at you, and you don't have a sense of fear,
Yeah.
there might be something wrong.
Yeah, you're not going to be
So
safe.
fear is a safeguard
It's a
for people.
warning.
Right.
Now, if you're eaten up with fear such that you can't walk through your neighborhood because a dog might jump the fence, then that's something's not right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so fear is an immediate alert to there's something that poses a danger. We need that. I will also contrast that with anxiety. And this, again, sounds like, we're parsing our words, but
It's important.
I think it's helpful.
yeah, but anxiety is about the future. So fear is usually
Immediate.
about like, oh, I'm leaving a concert and going down the side street and someone's following me and my brain lights up.
Yeah.
But anxiety is, will I get into this college that I want to get into? Will I
Right.
make friends in this new
Right.
job? Will I, it's all,
Or even I'm not going to go to that show because afterwards there could be.
will there be,
Will there
right.
be
It's sort of a question that
That's
gets posed
anxiety.
about the future that cannot be answered. And it can't
Turns
be
out
answered.
I've been an anxious person my whole life.
Welcome to the club, Sue.
I thought I was just afraid of the future. No.
Yeah, anxiety is like your brain posing an unanswerable question.
Yeah.
You're right.
Right.
You don't have the data. It's not. You will never be certain about it.
Yeah.
Like, what's the answer to the question of, is someone going to follow you down the side street after the concert? The answer is probably not. But who knows? We
Right.
don't know.
We don't know.
Are you going to get into your top college? Your grades look good, maybe, probably, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Is the plane going to crash? Probably not. But
Yeah.
you
Odds
know,
are with you.
right, the odds are in your favor.
Yeah.
So that's anxiety. Anxiety is your brain wanting certainty about the future, and it can't have certainty.
Correct.
So again, there's a role of anxiety too can be safeguarding, and it's really to the point where it starts to mess with you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my brain's going. So like the fear of the Lord, it feels like that has to be preceded by right thoughts about the nature of
About
God.
who God
who
is.
God
Right,
is.
that's the
That's
cognitive
good.
part
That's
has to
right.
precede that a bit. Like,
Dave.
Right.
okay, what's the nature of God? How does God relate to me and us?
Right.
And then if there is, like in Susie's example, or you're
Yep.
talking about the angels, if there is a healthy fear of something,
Yeah.
that could be okay.
Yeah. But there's these outliers in the Bible,
Yeah.
and the outlier, like Ananias and Sapphira.
I
don't
learned
talk
a lot
about
them.
Bruno.
No, we don't talk about
But they're outliers.
Ananias and Sapphira
They're
with
like,
the other
all
two
these
cons-
people do all kinds of stupid stuff, and then Ananias and Sapphira lie about how much
They gave. Sold a field,
sold a field, and
kept the money.
well, that doesn't seem awful. Like, okay, you're trying to get ahead in the world. You're trying to, you're trying to look good. Happens all the time. Well, they lose their lives over it.
In an instant.
Thanks, Susie. In an instant.
Right.
The
Which
same
then-
people that just carried out your husband are going to carry you out now.
Yeah.
But dead. So, okay.
I'm with you.
Usually, this is where fear comes. This is what generates fear in the cognitive minds of people who read the Bible and go, yeah, but he killed these people.
For lesser things.
Yeah, than I've done.
I've done, yeah.
And there's always outliers. There's always these moments, these places. How many people do we know of where God said, well, that's bad enough. We're going to we're done with you now. Not a lot. Ananias and Sapphira are pretty much the list. Now, a few people fell asleep in Corinthians because they were abusing the Lord's Supper, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah. How do you guys?
You laugh.
I just
Now
can't-
he's
I
nervous.
just know.
Wait a minute. Should I take communion or
honestly-
not? I had a friend of mine come up to me and say, "Hey,
Oh yeah, that was a big thing.
it was.
Don't take it
I'm afraid I'm taking this wrong.
in the wrong way.
and I'm gonna fall asleep, and I'll never wake up." And I'm like,
That was literally.
"Calm down."
That was. I mean, I don't know that anybody taught that, but that was what I understood about communion. Like whether it was told
Yeah.
that way or not, I understood the way it was framed up as a kid.
Right.
Like I remember drinking grape juice out of the fridge one time,
baby.
and I literally had.
We got into the wafers one time.
Yeah, it's like
little peanut butter and wafers.
Well, and the whole examining your heart.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
But they were doing the exact opposite thing. They were marginalizing people from getting to the table. They were prohibiting a hindrance of people that were actually supposed to.
Which is what unhealthy fear does.
Correct.
It keeps you from a emotionally healthy, attached relationship with God.
But some cognitive understanding of that passage can move you off of the fear.
Right.
I think.
Well, here's where my thoughts go to. No,
okay. we got him.
Well, so for me, going back to our comments about enlightenment thinking, like the church was really all bought into enlightenment thinking, and so it was like everything became cognitive, and then that led to systematic theologies. And if you could think your way into a full relationship and knowledge of God,
right?
And I think what we're tolerating more is we might have information about God, and experience with God, but it is a mystery, and it is and to be able to tolerate that sort of having that mental flexibility,
right?
This feels like part of it too. Is I read things like that and I just get confused, but I no longer try to put it into some kind of systematic theology that makes sense of it. It's more of like I'm wrestling in a good way with what does this say about the nature of God, and what does this mean? And it allows for that sort of mental, flexible approach rather than a rigid approach. To me, that feels like the psychologically healthy way to navigate that.
And also, I mean, without that psychological health, wouldn't you? I mean, we see it all the time. You can think and reason yourself away from belief in God.
Absolutely.
So
you can do it all. Yeah.
You know, without the emotional attachment and embracing the mystery and the healthy relationship with the community of faith, it's very easy to make sense of there not being any sense of God.
Yeah, right. It 100% is. And similar to that, one of the interesting things we found with our survey that we did last year was that one of the things that seems to be in line with less emotional and psychological health and spiritual health is this concept called spiritual bypass, which is people who don't do the thinking and just go to the little, the little
platitudes.
That was the word I was trying to get to. I was going to say the little successories poster. The little quote.
Yes.
Where it's
we call that word art.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like God's got it all in his hands, and God knows what he's doing, and God needed another angel, and all these kinds of things.
Wonderful.
And so it's like, I think that's where, in my mind, I'm sort of pathologically moderate in most things, but it's like the balance between if someone gets too cognitive, they can miss God. And if they don't engage the cognitive and emotional part, they can also be less psychologically well.
They can miss God there too,
and they can miss God.
That's what I was
Consequently,
thinking.
they can miss God
the other way.
Right. Yeah. It has an illusion, a facade of being very spiritual,
Faith
but it's
or
really
trust,
just I'm not dealing with the thing anymore.
Yeah, and that's
or ever,
and that's not healthy. So somewhere in this, a psychologically healthy church, is a willingness to have conversations that are harder and beyond the emotional level, beyond the experiential level, to the cognitive level, but also then I think it plays itself out in the relational aspects. You see people's faith in how they deal with other people.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that's the better litmus test of faith is a person's relationship with others, particularly close people, and I would say relationship with God in a true relational way and with themselves. I think those are those are better indicators than did you check every one of these 8 boxes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think more and more, though, we're seeing it's also evident in people's relationship with the people in their faith community, but also with people who don't share the same beliefs.
Good one.
Yeah.
Really good.
Like
sure.
you can really see how a person actually trusts what Jesus says by how they treat other people.
Well, and it's a word that we say a lot here that I think is a big part of that. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just curiosity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Curiosity seems vital to all of this.
That was in my toying around with, like, if I were to do this project, what I call it the curious church.
I love it.
Because that's really the essence of it is something that speaks to mental flexibility and openness to, it's getting away from the old rigid stuff that we all.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really interesting at the stage of parenting that we're in, Sam and I, because like, you dedicate these babies, right? Well, yeah, you guys too, but like it's really hitting us for the first.
As they're like leaving the house.
Yeah, because like you dedicate these babies in church and you say all the things and pray all the things and you then take the classes and you do all the things and you don't let them do the other things. And then
there's a lot of things.
And then you find out they were doing the other things.
Then you find out they were doing the things anyway.
Right? Yeah, it's like,
But like, they grow up. They grow up and they become these people unto themselves with their own thoughts and feelings and dreams and
their own wills
and stuff. Yeah. And so when they exercise those and they live into those things, like you have a choice to either, do I actually trust that God heard me when I prayed those things? And do I actually believe that God gave these children to me and that they belong to him and that he has a plan for their lives and that he is the author and perfecter of their faith, not just mine for them, do I believe that? Because if I believe that, then I should very joyfully, open-handedly enjoy them and experience them with hope and anticipation that those things are still true and always will be true, whether I'm still living or not. And then I treat them accordingly, right?
And
I don't
whether
do that, just so
I know.
we're clear. I'm not great at that.
I'm horrible at this.
Let's just be clear.
We suck at this part.
This is like, this is the deal, right?
Yeah.
This is it in real terms.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's harder for some people, though. I think it is harder personality-wise. Partly of how you were raised plays into that, and how I was raised as a free-range chicken, man. I was allowed to do whatever, whenever.
But to Dave's point, though, my health, my psychological and spiritual health, or is that what we're in that is evident by how that's lived out in a very practical way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
A concept we hit before that comes to mind now is this idea of non-attachment, and it's not referring to not being attached to people. It's not talking about not having good relationships. It's talking about how our tendency is to become very attached to the outcomes of things, to become very attached to possessions and things, to certain successes. Like we attach our sense of health and well-being, and that applies to our children. We become attached not just to them as humans, but to a certain way of being or a certain outcome. That they were successful in school and went to college and got a good job, or that they got married, whatever it is for each family. Every family is different in what that is. And non-attachment, and this is not just a nice idea. There's research that backs this up that says that people that practice non-attachment tend to be psychologically healthier. That they kind of release that stuff.
Would that be like their identity is found in that thing, like
and their well-being?
The attached,
I would say identity
everything
and just general well-being.
Okay.
Like if you're distressed over your kids not going to a certain, not going to college and working, or whatever it might be,
or they
for
weren't
the
the
family.
star quarterback.
They weren't whatever it is, or for your own career. The more attached you are to those as your sense of self and well-being, like I'm okay if this, the less healthy you are emotionally
Right.
and psychologically.
You
say-
live vicariously through your children, it
Yeah.
sounds like.
or through your career or through whatever.
Okay, got it.
Is that attachment to the outcome a result of, like, one of the results of the Enlightenment thinking, where we systematize everything? Like, my faith is actually in the system, because if I follow the system or the formula, then it's surely going to be this way. So
The math adds up.
Right.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I would say I think it got deeper and worse because of Enlightenment thinking, but I think it's a human trait to want certainty
Yeah.
and to feel like we have a certain sort of talisman or formula that if we do these things, they lead to an outcome.
Right.
So I think that preceded Enlightenment.
So
but I
it's
think
human
made it-
nature, but the Enlightenment gave us a formula.
The Enlightenment said, "Oh, this
shot
is a
it-
doable thing.
some
Like
adrenaline
now
to it,
we've got it all figured out. We
Yeah.
have the science of it and the sort of the steps. And if you follow these
Yeah.
principles as a parent, then this is the
Yeah.
outcome that you get." That's all that sort of raising kids God's way and all the sort of parenting in a certain type of formulaic way is
Yeah.
a
even
product of that.
attachment parenting, which was
Wasn't
the
there-
opposite of
That's right. Even
growing kids
attachment
God's
parenting.
way.
It
Remember
is-
Bill Gothard?
Oh,
that's
we
growing
could
kids
have a
God's
whole
way.
Bill Gothard conversation.
I thought that was Ezzo.
It is,
Is-
but it's the same ilk.
Yeah.
Oh, ilk.
Oh yeah.
Ilk. The math ain't mathin'.
Mine never did.
Got it.
That's our
Math
quote
ain't
for the,
mathin'.
for
On that
the
note.
Math
podcast.
ain't
But
mathin'.
this is this we need to revisit this at
Yes.
some point.
I think this can just be extended. And,
Yeah, I think we
and,
need to
and
keep
I
it
knew
going.
when we went into it, it
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
a little all over the place and a
Yeah,
little muddy.
that's a little
but
fun.
I feel like it's important
Yeah.
to kind of think through what are we really talking about and what does
Yeah.
it look like and what are the practical
Yeah.
outworkings of this.
love
Right.
it.
One thing I've learned over the years before we go on, is after years and years and years of trying to create relationships within the church, it is extraordinarily difficult and it is impossible to manage. Apart from God and apart from people actually willfully participating, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter what you program. It doesn't matter how you do it. You accidentally stumble on it, but it is not reproducible.
Yeah.
I think there's like something about that in John 15 somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So
Jesus
we will
said it
continue this conversation. Thanks for joining us, Suzie. Dave,
You're welcome.
Thanks for
for
being here.
having me.
Sam,
Always fun.
it's always good to see your face.
Thanks.
Always.
I showed up again.
Wait. And we are out.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Journey on My Mind. If you enjoyed it, please help us spread the word by leaving us a review and sharing it on your social media. Journey on My Mind is a production of Journey Church in Brentwood, Tennessee. Edwin Rivera III is the show's producer, with technical assistance from Randy Hansen. Grant Opperman edits the show. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or a question, you can text us at 615-861-9503. And if you would like to talk to someone about spiritual or mental health issues, you can email our care pastor, Sam Barnhart, at sam@journeytn.com.